let's talk about The Last Super Chef. So as promised, I won't summarize your book. What does esteemed audience need to know as they are ordering their copy or checking their copy out from the library right now while they listen to us?
Yeah, sure. So, so The Last Super Chef is about 11-year-old Curtis, who is one of those kids who you see on like MasterChef Junior or any of these, baking junior shows on Food Network, or he's already like an expert chef at that age, right? Sometimes you watch those shows and you say, how can a kid make a souffle already? I'm almost 50 and I can't make a souffle and never probably will be able to. But he is one of those kids, and he is a mega fan of this show that is on TV called The Super Chef. So, of course, hence the title of the book. And he actually also has a secret, which is that the Super Chef is his father, or that's one of the mysteries of the book. Is he or is he not? At least Curtis believes that he is. And so when the Super Chef announces, he starts acting a little funny on TV. And of course, as closely as Curtis watches, he notices it right away. He notices he's missing his buttons. And the Super Chef is like a Gordon Ramsay type person, right? I always say the book is, if I had to, I'm going into this long description, which I'm going to try to cut short because I tend to ramble. But if I had to describe it in a short way, I would say it's Willy Wonka meets Gordon Ramsay. That's The Last Super Chef. But to continue what I was saying, so after the Super Chef starts acting odd, and of course Curtis notices because he watches every episode, he stands 2 inches from the television and he's just locked in. He announces that he's going to have a last final competition, and he's calling it The Last Super Chef. And instead of the adult contestants he usually has, he's inviting 5 kids to compete against each other for sort of this big prize, a bigger prize than he's ever had on the show. And so suddenly Curtis has this possibility to be one of these 5 kids. So this becomes his life's mission. And the story kind of goes from there into the cooking competition and so forth. And one of the reasons people ask, like, so are you a big cook? And I'm actually not. I'm not a very good cook at all. So why did you write it? Well, I'm just a huge fan of those kind of cooking shows. So Top Chef, Master Chef, Iron Chef, like any of these, so I had to make my own Super Chef. And I like, competition. I'm a sports person, right? So I like that kind of, contests, competitions, but I also like seeing people. I like creativity, obviously, as a writer, and I like the cooking shows, I think, because they're a competition, but they're also people being very creative, taking this life's work that they've done. Like if you watch, like currently there's a new season of Top Chef airing. I think I just watched, I missed it last Thursday, but I came home from vacation last night. The first thing I did was put on my recorded version of the Top Chef episode I missed. And it's just, there's all these very creative people, and they're at the top of their game, and they're doing things that they never tried before and pushing themselves. And that's kind of what the kids do in The Last Super Chef. It's a diverse, the 5 kids. They're slightly inspired by, the 5 kids in Willy Wonka, except of course they're different than my own creation. But they're very diverse. There's one from Japan, and there's 2 girls and 3 boys, and there's one from Mexico. And so there's, I like to think there's a lot of representation. There's a black girl from Boston who's in the competition. So there's all these different kids, and it's just the same thing. It's like they're all, for their age, at the top of their game. And of course, when Curtis gets there, he's kind of intimidated because as much as he's studied the craft of cooking, he realized now he's around kids that really have done everything he's done, and suddenly he's not, at the top. He's just mixed in with them. So I don't want to say too much more than that because I'll start spoiling it if I'm not careful. But that's the gist of The Last Super Chef. It's a cooking competition, kid trying to find a lost parent, sort of gritty competition type of a book, and hopefully it's inspiring to kids for lots of different reasons, which that's of course the goal. So.
Well, you too much of a spoiler to say that all but one of the children is murdered by Oompa Loompas.
That's right. That's right. Yep. They come out of they come out at night and it turns into a horror middle grade and yep, it's the biggest switcheroo that you've ever seen.
Well, I maintain that the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, in addition to being very uncomfortable in places now, is a horror story. You start off with a set number of people and they get picked up until you come to the one who's worthy of surviving the monster that is Willy Wonka and his abominable factory.
It's funny because when I started researching, the pieces, because in different points of the book, there's different little send-ups. And of course, the reason I have a little bit, I mean, there's not much, right? It's not like it's a reproduction or a retelling of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or anything. But I was a fan when I was a kid of that story, of course, which is why it stuck in my head, like, what kind of story do you want to tell? And when I started researching it, I read the same thing. It was like, started getting into the details of, people were writing all these blogs about how it's really a horror story and how when they take the boat down and they descend, it's kind of like reminiscent of like Dante and descending into like hell or something. And I'm like, oh gosh, this is like more analysis than I ever did about Roald Dahl's work and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So I did go down that rabbit hole, but I didn't use much of that research in the story I decided to tell. But I did see a lot of that.
So if you're not cooking yourself, obviously you're very passionate about the shows. What attracted you to a cooking competition, not being a cook yourself, and then what research do you have to do to be able to at least bluff your way when you're writing about characters who are better cooks than you are?
Right. So good question. So again, what attracted me to them I'm trying to remember the first one. I guess it was Iron Chef, the Japanese version. They started airing it over here. And then I know early on Top Chef, I think it's the 18th season or something like that. I've watched Top Chef from the very beginning. It's that same thing I was saying. That was the attraction, was the competition and the excelling creatively and sort of, competing against each other, but in a friendly way, which you sometimes see in sports and you sometimes don't, right? Sometimes it gets a little vicious in real sports. I know my Atlanta Hawks are playing right now, I think, and when we finish, I'll probably go run and see the status. But sometimes in like the NBA and things like that, things get a little heated and there's not so much friendly competition. But usually in these cooking shows, they have a lot of respect for each other, right? It's not like these reality shows where they're trying to, have alliances and kick each other off the show and that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed that. As far as the second part of your question, I did do a lot of research as I was writing things, and I used a lot of things from like my experience. So when I was choosing a dish, sometimes it would be like a dish I remembered eating at a certain very good memory or something like that. Like I know in Japan, like I said, one of the chefs is Japanese and she does something, maybe I won't say because that way I don't have to spoil it, but she cooks something or they partner up to cook something. Like each challenge has a different nature to it, just like in these shows. And they cook something that I had in like a basement in Osaka at a department store. That's one of my like favorite meals of all time. And I just remember that meal so fondly that I said, okay, I want to look up how you make this. And so that's what I did. I did all the research. But the other part of that question, the answer to that question is that I was fortunate, this was just sheer luck, I suppose, but on one of my writing workshop travels, I met a former chef who was becoming a writer, and we were at the same workshop trying to learn to write, just like many years ago. Her name's Ivy Knight, and she is a former chef. She's a food writer, and we have a little bit of a relationship as far as like exchanging work and so forth, kind of long distance, because she's up in Toronto and I'm in Atlanta. And so she agreed to read the book, and she really helped me get all those things that I might have gotten wrong with her experience as she worked in kitchens and now she writes for magazines, but it's mostly food articles, and she's interviewed people like Anthony Bourdain and all those kind of folks. So, she brought that expertise wherever I was sort of lacking it. So I can't I can't thank her enough for that part of the critique. And in fact, she's going to be at my book launch on the 6th, the night of the 6th, which, like you said, this will air after that. But the night of July 6th, we're going to be in conversation together, so we could talk a little bit about that experience and how we work together and kind of at a food level. So so multi-pronged answer to how I got the cooking parts right.
Lunch was a smashing success.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I could have said I just winged it, and if there's anything wrong, you know, too bad. But and there probably still is stuff wrong in the book that some expert cooks and chefs will say, well, that's not quite right. Maybe both Ivy and I missed it. It's obviously as appreciative as I am to Ivy, and as much as I said anything there, obviously any remaining mistakes are mine. It probably would be something that I just didn't listen to her on or something like that. But yeah, I'm sure there's mistakes still to catch. But we did make a pretty good attempt to try to get, you know, as much of the food and chef stuff right as we could. And of course, a lot of it was also just watching the shows. I mean, like I said, I watch those shows religiously, so I don't know how that was another thing I had to research. I don't know how the shows work exactly in the background. I kind of made some stuff fit the way I wanted the show to work, although it may not be in reality the way they work. But I also have some writing friends who have a background in like television and movies and so forth. Their day job is like acting and those types of things, or at least part of it. So they were able to help me, you know, on the pieces where it was a TV show. They would say, yeah, I don't think it would work like this. You probably would have to have this and that. So I guess I'm just fortunate to have so many critique partners from so many different walks of life that could help me get the details right.